reason why this kit is so hated is because it doesn't allow the radio to sit flush. Now a 7-inch motorized like this is going to sit a little better than like the 6.2s that have the real tiny edges, but at the end of the day all you have to do is some sanding here to this edge right here. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll get this lined up good. Now the other thing you're going to need to do is pick the holes that you want and make them a little bigger, because we're sliding the kit back some, the holes don't necessarily line up anymore. Alright, as always, check your gapping and make sure your spacing is good. Now we'll go ahead and tidy up these wires here on the back of the radio, and we'll set this aside and get on to the next part of the install. Alright, there we go. We're all good. So at this point we have a plan for all the wires that we're losing because we're not going to have a smart harness for this car. So now what we want to do is go ahead and get this harness prepped and ready so that it can go into the car. Now normally at this point in the video I would sit back and tell you all the wire colors that we have that are available to us on the smart harness, but we don't have those, and we've pretty much already talked about the fact that this just has these two wires and the speaker wires. But the wires we are going to need to find in the car that we keep talking about are the purple white, which is the reverse, the orange white, which is illumination, which we just told you we're going to get back at the taillights, and then of course the red accessory, which we just found in the dash. Now what we need to do is just go ahead and attach the wires we have here, and then make the pigtails for the wires that we're going to run. This is the power harness also for the backup camera. We have an accessory and ground here. So let's go ahead and get this guy connected.
Alright, so we have the speaker out, and now we want to know which one is positive and which one is negative. So for that we're going to use the Mobile Solutions PT98 Grava speaker. Okay, so this one is backwards. So what that means is the green yellow is positive.
My turn, my turn. Thank you, sir.
Alright, so we just need to make some quick G pods. We've already made them. Basically all we did was take this speaker, screw it down to a piece of 1/2-inch plastic, routed it out. Now we've got a template we can use over and over again. We have some signboard here. This is basically just blown PVC that has an aluminum substrate on it. The reason why we have this is because we have a sign shop next door and they throw this stuff away in small pieces like this. It has the same blown PVC between each piece of little aluminum that we use, so it's a lot more rigid. As you can see, rigid. And that allows us to take thin pieces like this and make tweeter pods, and we don't have to use 1/4 inch. Now what we'll go ahead and do is stack these on top of one another. So let's head over to the router now. Now we're just gonna find the middle here. so in the box there's 2 sets of crossovers, one for the mid bass, one for the tweeter. 2 tweeters, 2 angle mount kits, bag of screws, and then of course the 2 6x9 inch mid bass. They do come with a piece of foam for the back. That's them right there. They also come with a 1/4 inch spacer in case you need that. Alright, so the tweeter comes in the surface mount, but once you remove that off the back, what you end up with is a tweeter that has a little 1/8 inch lip. That's the size of the hole we need to drill, so that this will sit flush inside of this. Now, if you're gonna use a hole saw like this for something like this, make sure you mount this firmly, like maybe put 2 screws in here. We just put it in the vise, makes things a lot easier. All right, so there we go, we have our hole. Tweeter fits into it, awesome. All right, and then once you get the tweeter through the hole, you can take the back plate that you mounted off. It's got grooves all the way down. Simply just press it in place, and as you can see, tweeter will hold in place. All right, so these are all set and done. We went ahead and added some glue onto the back sides just to make sure that these things, if he hits a tremendous bump or something, doesn't fall out. I had no fear of it happening, but you can never be too safe. We can go ahead and get these in the car. The other reason why I didn't paint these also, why I left them white, you can't see them through the grills, so we're all good there. Otherwise, I would have painted them black. Just like Fernando just did, we want to see what's positive and negative here from the factory on this little guy. According to this, the gray orange is positive. The other thing we want to do is check these tweeters. So according to this, the stripe is negative. Let's try this one. And this one is the same. So we'll go ahead and put some heat shrink on the positive so we know which one's positive. And then we'll do the same in the car. Let's go ahead and take this one in and test it there. So what we want to do now is we test it on the bench that the gray orange is positive, and we have that hooked up that way. We're going to go to our speaker harness here, see which one is white. That's going to be the first 2, so it goes negative, then it goes positive. Now we have a ticking sound. We'll go ahead and take our tester here, and we're getting green. Now we'll test the door because it's the same channel and we want to make sure that the speakers are both going the same direction. All right, so now our door is red. So one of 2 things is going on here. 1, the door is backwards, or 2, the dash is backwards. Now how we can assess which one it is test another speaker in the car that still has the factory speaker in it, which would be number 4, which is the passenger rear. So we'll go ahead and we'll test that one and see what that tells us. What do you get?
I got red.
All right, cool. So now what that's telling us is that the tweeter is out of polarity with the door. And there again, we've talked about this a bunch of times in this show. If you want to leave them like that, that's entirely up to you. The factory is a mid-range, it's not a tweeter. It might work better for that mid-range. This is just a tweeter. We're gonna go ahead and switch these. And in doing so, we'll go ahead and we'll add a red piece of heat shrink onto this one so that we know which one is positive. GPS antenna, USB. All right, so we got the radio all hooked up. We'll go ahead and test the microphone. This doesn't have steering wheel controls. What's the weather like today?
It's currently partly cloudy and 70.
Microphone works. Let's go back into the home setting. Go gears, camera settings, backup camera input on. Go ahead and select X, put it in reverse. We have a nice backup image. Go ahead and unplug the phone. Go back to HD radio. See if all the speakers are playing. Now, even though we've pretty much polarity checked everything before we did our final assembly, we're gonna go ahead and check it one last time just to make sure everything is okay. Alright, so all the speakers are popping in the same direction. We're happy about that. Backup camera works, the microphone works. We just need to get this thing outside, make sure that the Sirius XM is functioning along with the GPS. Now, we're not going to set the clock on this because once we get it outside, the GPS will automatically set it for us, but we will go ahead and set the color and display. The backup camera looks really nice. Let's go back and take a look at it. So we added in those two bottom screws like we talked about earlier. Have it screwed in up top here. It's in there nice and secure. Aim down towards that. You can still fit your hand up in here to open up the hatch. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and pull this thing outside so that we can check the Sirius XM along with the GPS. All right, our GPS is up and running. Ah, this sucks. His antenna's bad. All right, and that's why we do these little checks. He didn't have the Sirius XM activated when we pulled it in, so we weren't able to check the antenna. So now we have to pull it back in, put in an antenna. Yay! All right, new Sirius XM antenna in, and the radio's working great. This guy is done. All right, so this is quite the adventure, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, it stymied us the whole way. In starting out with not being able to have a smart harness, having to go old school. There again, not the end of the world, but just Paul didn't account for the amount of time that it was gonna take to do the extra wiring that was involved. Having to flip the backup camera, speakers out of polarity, having to test everything because things were going goofy, the Sirius XM antenna being bad. But regardless, all that, water under the bridge, we're done.
On to the next one.